And you mentioned something interesting there, and that is, you know, just how much work the director puts into creating a vision. And you've been on director hiring committees. You've worn so many hats. So for aspiring directors, is there anything that you can share in terms of what does a hiring committee tend to look for?
Well, first of all, if the person is not known that well to the guild, we would just like to get an idea of what is your directing style, how do you hold auditions, uh, and we want them to be honest. You know, are you the kind of director who it's my way or the highway, or are you interested in collaborating with the actors and soliciting feedback and things like that? Our hiring committee the last few years has not been favorable to what I would call tyrants, but we are interested in what directors have to give, but we also want to know how much they will accept in cast and crew feedback.
Collaboration.
Collaboration, yes.
Excellent. So tell me, what's next for Scarborough Theatre Guild? There's so much planning that has to take place, and right now we're in a very different world, but you know, there's always planning.
Well, there's always planning, and but right now, most of the planning is contingency planning, because we don't really know what date we will be allowed back in the theater. The theater shut down abruptly on March the 13th, leaving the Players production in the theater with its set still up. They still haven't been able to get in and get it out. They're trying to get concessions from the city to allow them to do that. When that happens, if this season were to take off as planned in September, we would be the next group in with a red plaid shirt. We feel we're in a good position to mount a red plaid shirt whenever we are allowed back in the theater. It's 75% ready already. It has been cast. It's been mostly rehearsed. We had one cast member drop out, and I took that cast member's place. So I'm still learning my lines, but I've been, and we can't really get together very readily for rehearsals unless we just have 2 actors and a director and a stage manager. That's 4. That's under the limit, and we all wore masks the last time we got together. Went through our lines, went through some blocking, but we believe that a red plaid shirt would be a go whenever we're allowed back in. Theatre Scarborough needs to sort of take an eye as to how much of a season will be left when we get back in, and how are we going to allocate that season among the 3 groups. You know, we can't just say, okay, if the season opens in November, okay, tough luck, any group that didn't get their show in, they're lost. No, we would try to have each group put some shows in and on an equitable basis. But it also means that our play reading committee and our board have to be open to totally different season than the one that we published in our brochures. And we have canceled subscription sales for this year, just so we could do that. And also, it just didn't make sense to sell subscriptions and then you have to turn around and issue refunds for the shows that wouldn't be able to go up. So we're keeping our options open for what we can put on. A trend in the discussion these days is 1-act plays, small cast plays. I have a catalog of the library that the Guild has. That was another big project of mine a couple of years ago, was cataloging all the plays.
Oh, wow.
We have almost 800 of them. And so I went through the list and pulled out all the ones that had 1 act and fewer than 4 cast. Out of 800 plays, we came up with 7 titles. So there's not a lot of them out there. There's another school of thought that if you can get the rights to stream a play, but I think that's okay. I'm older, I don't have the technological know-how, but there'd be an investment in getting the equipment necessary to stream, And B, there'd have to be a way to monetize this streaming. And so that's something that would have to be tackled by a committee. If we go that route, it'd have to be tackled by a committee consisting of more knowledgeable people than me. So.
And you mentioned, online methods.
Yeah.
What has your learnings been from that so far, or what have you tried with it to this point?
Well, I've held play reading committee meetings and board meetings via Zoom, and the first thing I learned from holding a Zoom meeting at home was that my internet connection sucks. So when I have a board meeting or a play reading committee meeting, I come to the unit where our internet connection is good, and I hold it from there. Apart from that, it seems to be okay. We even have 2 members of our board who also happen to be on the play reading committee who are not computer literate. Actually, 3 members on the play reading committee. And they can still join these Zoom meetings by phone. And so that, and one of them who I've always considered would be very lucky to be dragged kicking and screaming into the 21st century has admitted that she rather enjoyed that phone in and listen to everybody thing. She thought that there might be something in this new technology after all. I thought that was kind of funny. We could even end up holding our AGM via Zoom. We have to talk to some knowledgeable people about how to register votes, how to take attendance, etc., etc. I mean, you could record the whole meeting, and that would get you your attendees. But there's lots can be done remotely. But I have heard of some people say, well, we tried this streaming thing, but nothing beats live theater. So that might be the thought that carries the day when we finally do get back into the theater and can have a scaled down audience. Just looking at the basic numbers, we would probably be allowed an audience of 75 to 80 out of a 242 seat theater. And even that small number, if it maxes out, would still bring in more money than we would have to spend to put on the show. And so that's the key now. We won't turn a profit this year because 2 of our shows' revenues disappeared. Unlikely we would turn a profit next year because our fixed costs are considerable. But and unavoidable. That's hence the term fixed. But what we have to do is make sure that if we are going to put on a show, any additional cash outlay is going to be covered by the revenue we expect to get when the crowd comes back.
That makes sense. And there's the business manager hat on.
Yes.
So it sounds like there's been a lot of great learnings that have come out of some of the trials and tribulations, that even during a pandemic, there's still a lot of creativity and people willing to learn and try and experiment new things. So just, as we close, I was wondering, is there any, as you look back on the plays that you've gone through, the plays you've been in or involved in different ways, is there any really great things or unexpected things that you learned from that experience?
Well, one thing I did find was it's not so much the play as how it is presented to you that really matters. I remember once I saw a play put on in Port Perry, and I remember thinking, A few years later, as part of the play reading committee here at the Guild, I read the play at home and was laughing out loud. I don't laugh out loud when I read things, and I was killing myself laughing. And I thought, okay, we'll put this forward for the read-throughs. And so we took it to the read-throughs, and so 3 different reactions to 3 different ways of presenting something. You can read it, it'll be hysterical. You can listen to it, meh. You can see it, and it might be, yeah, maybe. And it depends now. 3 totally different groups putting it on, but it just shows that you can be great one way, horrible into the other. Just on my own play reading committee this year, I've asked them to put forward their list of the 9 plays we've been reading for the short list. And there's one member who has his 1-2 is another member's bottom 2. So, and what's the phrase? There's no accounting for taste. So it's all a matter of perspective, how it's presented, who it's presented by, certainly. You know, maybe when I saw the play in Port Perry, the actors weren't that great. Maybe. I thought they were, but it's just the play.
All in the way it's presented, as you
Yes,
said.
all in the way it's presented.
I was going to ask you, what are you doing to stay busy? But I think you've told us that. There's never a dull moment.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this year would be a good time to restart my garden, but I've got a very rickety fence and a host of hungry rabbits in the vicinity. It just hasn't been worthwhile the last few years, so that would have been my other hobby had I decided to have one. But I also, if I put up a fence, and I've got a 100-pound dog who likes to chase rabbits, and so the fence is toast if they see one in the garden. So,
Well, there you
so
go.
is the garden, for that matter.
It shows that while people may think that, that those of us in theater aren't doing that much, there is still so much going on. And and I think it just shows the dedication and the love that you have of theater.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
know,
you.
if we had more time, I'd just continue to pick your brain. But that
Oh,
we've
yes.
learned so much. So
Thanks.
thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.